Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. I'm back again, guys. I hope you're not sick of me yet out there, but another great panel here. I'm actually going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves. Just be brief because I want to hit you with a lot of questions. So Mike, let's start with you. Tell us who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name is Mike Sorgenfrei. I'm one of the founders of Encore. And at Encore, we are building decentralized loyalty programs, trying to help creators better connect with their fans and really empower fans to own their fandom as a digital asset.
Wonderful. Akhil, how about you?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Akhil Ramgopal, and I'm the head of product at Novel. And what we're building is the most approachable platform for creating and selling NFTs and layering on utility through gated experiences.
Great. And Rob?
Hey, I'm Rob Abelo, founder and head of product at Doper. Before Doper, I worked alongside artists as an artist manager and a label founder. I started Doper alongside two cognitive neuroscientists with a focus on how we form music preference in the brain and how patterns of sound lead to music affinity. With Doper, we're helping music collectors discover the most compelling artists and releases by aggregating the entire Web3 ecosystem, providing fandom-based recommendation, and music NFT analytics. So we're trying to make it easier for collectors to onboard into the space. Very happy to be here.
Love it. All of your guys' projects are really exciting. Can't believe I got you all on the same panel. And Rob, shout out for our Twitter Spaces earlier this week. I know a lot of the audience was kind of blown away by the knowledge you guys were dropping. So if you all in the audience missed that, go check it out. We're going to kind of go in a similar direction here with this panel a bit, kind of a deep dive on NFT utility, how it's being delivered today. And these panelists were chosen specifically because they're building a lot of that connective tissue. So Akhil, I'm going to start with you. Novel's a really interesting project. I'm curious, if you could just give a quick blurb on exactly what you're building. I know you're connecting to sort of traditional Rails, so artists have ways of actually delivering utility. Could you just give us a quick breakdown? Because I think it's a good segue into like this sort of overall theme of the tools you guys are building.
Yeah, totally. So I know we're really excited specifically about the bridge that artists are able to build between like their fans, right? And so one way to make that really easy is to essentially use NFTs as a medium for not only things like fundraising, but also to expand VIP experiences outside of concert walls. And what I mean by that is the ability for you to offer exclusive things like digital experiences via things like maybe a gated product or a gated website that is essentially different for someone that holds an NFT. And a lot of these music experiences in today's world aren't really specific to you. And that's generally speaking because people really hyper-focus on selling to millions of people. But with NFTs, you're able to narrow down that focus to a select group of people, whether that's the early adopters who backed you since day one, right, as a channel of feedback and helped grow your brand, or with an established following, the people that love your music to the point where they're willing to pay a premium to get that VIP treatment at a concert. And so with Novel, we've taken this really complex and nascent technology like the blockchain, and we tried to make it really easy on both the creator and the user side. So for a creator, setting up that gated experience for their fans and customers is as seamless as just clicking a few buttons, right? And from the customer side, getting that NFT into their hands and allowing them to use it is the same way. And so we really tried to make the process of like basically that VIP experience as easy as possible. And we're leveraging that through an integration with Shopify, the ability for us to directly sell things like gated merch and show exclusive content on your storefront, as well as offer benefits beyond and basically cross market with other artists or other communities all on one platform.
Yeah, I love it. I think the title is inspired by this idea, right? That like if artists don't have the tools for actually delivering on quote utility and the value and these like community-based things they're trying to provide in a way that's actually scalable, it's not going to happen, right? So I love that you guys are building some of those tools and connecting to like the old world, so to speak. Mike, you're doing something similar different take though. I'd like to understand more about this layer, this connective tissue between the NFT and its utility, and what you kind of see as what's next.
Yeah, so we actually really see NFTs as just one spoke in the complex wheel, which is fandom, right? So for so many fans and for so many artists, not everybody is onboarded to Web3 yet, right? Still confusing, still hard, and everybody's working on that user experience. And when you think about an artist, they have so many touch points between them and their fans, right? It's not like social media goes away because we've invented NFTs. It's not like concerts are different, or there's awesome social token programs out there, and there's so many different ways to interact with fans. And so what we're really focused on building are these loyalty programs so that an artist can reward their fans across all the different ways that a fan chooses to interact with that artist, right? So this takes into consideration, really importantly, things that are not just monetary, right? Not every fan can afford the most expensive NFTs or afford all the social tokens, but they're still huge fans, right? They might know a lot about the artist and so can answer trivia really effectively. They might have followed them for a really long time. They might engage with them offline in different kinds of ways. And so what we're building is kind of that holistic view of all of your fans across all of the different touch points that you have, NFTs being a critical one of them, social tokens being another really important one, but also thinking about all the traditional kind of touch points that are still critically important for the success of an artist. So that's kind of how we're taking the approach. And we're actually leveraging verifiable credentials more so than NFTs. We believe that the future is across chain, across metaverse, across who knows what. And so we want something that can really travel wherever that fan and artist may want to go. And they're not tied down to just one chain or program.
Got it. No, I think there's probably a lot of artists that are lamenting the fact that hey, I've started this NFT project and it's really exciting, but none of the other work that I had on my plate before necessarily goes away. So I think that's a great part to remember. And ideally, I think we're working toward a place where all of those channels and systems are working together and sort of orbits around the fan and the artist. But Rob, I want to come to you. You're working on this in a similar space, but sort of with a different lens on it. Reminder for the folks at home, Rob and his team are building sort of a number of tools, but they're focused all around sort of how people value NFTs, how the brain values music. Rob, these two guys are building connective tissue so that the artist can deliver utility. Is that a big factor in how you're seeing people value these NFTs at the mint and then sort of in secondary sales as well? Or what have you been learning there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think utility is something everybody wants to talk about. You have to add that. There's so many different types of utility that can be offered. I think what's exciting about music NFTs is that they are a blank canvas. Artists can come up with so many different ways that they can add value. I think we're barely scratching the surface of what utility kind of looks like. But I do think something that's consistent across all of it is that you have to have value that feels like it's being added to those collectors. If they're going to bring more money and value into the system, they need to feel like they're getting more value back out of it. If they aren't, then it's just patronage, which I think is great. And I think some of that's happening, but it's not enough to really kind of grow this overall pie and bring value to music like I would like to see. Something that I think kind of makes like how you value these things difficult is that there's no one pricing strategy in NFTs as in other places in music. If you're streaming, everything costs the same. You never really think about it. But if in NFTs, you have, totally different pricing for all of them. You have varied value propositions and utility. You have the fact there's a resale factor. Some could have royalty bearing elements to them if, they're royalty bearing NFTs. So it's a really hard question to think about, like how much an NFT is worth or what does utility matter there. But what's great is that music is really different than other things that are on the blockchain or other NFTs, and that there's this really rich off-chain information, like the artists that are associated and the songs that are associated. And, at Doper, we're looking at, how those songs are performing, and then also the audio content underneath those songs, and using our neural-powered models to maybe predict how those songs are performed, both in Web 2 and in Web 3. And there's also very on-chain information like utility and transaction information, what the artist has done before. So, what we're looking at Doper is we're kind of using this information to provide transparency to collectors and help fuel discovery. And we think of discovery as like you're looking for a different type of value, a different type of relationship with the artist. So we look at that in two ways. There's one that's more financial. So it's how much is this music NFT going to be worth in the future? Or how many royalties might I collect from this royalty bearing NFT over the next 5 years? But then there's also the value of like, what am I finding something I truly love or an experience that's really valuable to me? And maybe that's actually more core to what's exciting here. So that's it, an artist that you found and you've connected with, or a community that they've built that you're now a part of, or other types of utility that they're giving to you, or just the music they're giving back to you. So we're building fandom-based recommendation that's looking for artists and music you'll have like a deep affinity for, like you're finding your next favorite artist, instead of maybe finding like a song that just fits the context or the mood of a playlist. So that's more of like in the background, a lean back type of model. We're more of like a lean in, like find that fandom thing. So value is really key to all of this. And I think artists need to like think about, what are collectors finding valuable, like making sure they're delivering utility that they say they're going to deliver on. I think follow through is going to be really, really important. But I think another cool thing is that a lot of this surplus value is really going to be in like the long tail of artists, and collectors just really need tools to kind of find and track what that is.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue into sort of where I wanted to go next. I've asked this question to a couple of guests in different ways, but Akhil or Mike, whoever wants to go first, Rob brings up a great point that I think artists are figuring out how to deliver all this value, and that's a big reason why people are buying them. I'm over here worried that all these artists are like doing all these interesting, exciting things, but then are going to end up struggling to actually deliver on that utility over an extended period of time. I guess what I want to ask you guys is, have you seen that happening at all already, or are we still too early? And like, how are artists that you've worked with mitigating sort of promising too much too early and then sort of being hamstrung by having to deliver this utility over time?
Yeah, I'll jump in. We have seen that, right? I think we've seen that across the industry, and I would argue that that's probably a recent, a tribulation to some of the recent turmoil that we've seen in the market, is that whenever you rush in that quickly, you forget your suit sometimes, right? And so you're kind of left out there hanging out, and you have to realize there's only so many hours in a day. Right? Artists are people, they're humans, they have lives, right? And you can't expect them as a fan to be able to deliver for 24/7, just like the crypto markets do. And as an artist, you need to be realistic about what you can do, right? Especially in a new emerging technology that's evolving every day, if not every minute. And so we're seeing that on both sides. We're seeing some artists under deliver and some artists just completely blow it away, right? And doing an amazing job of finding new and really interesting ways of engaging. So I think we're seeing both. And I think also it comes with experience, right? So a parallel that I like to think of all the time is Twitch. There were some artists that really found their niche on Twitch and really figured out, comments and donations and how to make a great living there. And that works for them. And for other artists, it's just the most awkward kind of environment ever. And so it's about figuring out what works for that artist and not over-promising until you better understand the technology and what's sustainable to deliver on.
Sure. Akhil, any comments?
Yeah, no, I think that it's really, what's great about artists is how creative they are, right? And the ability for them to come up with these amazing benefits and utility options. But I think a lot of times what is tough to do is the execution piece, right? And so with Novel, a lot of what we're building is around like a no-code approach for trying to deliver a lot of that utility. And so I think like going forward, we're going to see a lot of people building in the space to service artists and creators in that sense, right? Where if I have an idea today, I can execute on it tomorrow. And I think that's where, once we end up, it'll be a really, really interesting to see how these benefits spiral out over time. But I think right now, since we're so early, like everyone has a lot of ideas, it's really important for them to know that they can execute on them. But mainly because, as an NFT holder, like you want to be participating and reap those benefits. And so I think being more realistic about what you can deliver on is really important. But at Novel, like I said, we're trying to also go with the approach that with a no code, you can go and achieve a lot of that.
For sure. No, I think arming artists with the tools to do it themselves is the only way this actually works. So again, love everything you all are building. I'm going to go a little devil's advocate on you guys, and again, feel free to jump in, whoever this question resonates with the most. there's a theme sort of emerging today that I've been loving to see, which is that the music really should be leading everything, even though there's visual components. Like the music should really be at the core of this sort of movement, and artists should be leading the way with their music. But we've also been talking a lot about utility, right? Which is like attachment to the music, to the art piece. And I guess I'll ask it this way: how come the music isn't enough anymore? Or is it? Or do you see this like relationship with music evolving because of Web3, and now we expect all this utility to come with it? Like, how does that kind of play out over the next few years, do you think?
It's definitely been a big question of if isn't the music enough. But I think like in theory, we'd all love for that to be true, but you're not giving enough incentive for anybody, especially when they have, 20 years now and really even more of devaluing music. And I don't even think about it when I pay for music. It's just, I pay $10 a month, whether I listen to 500 hours of music or 1 hour of music. So I think and I could speak from managing artists. I mean, we've always had to find ways to over deliver to fans to bring them into our world. Like, I just think of this as a different and much better mechanism and tool to kind of honestly facilitate so many ideas that I've had that I wanted to interact with fans and deliver them more value. So I really just think it's a mechanism that like artists can deliver more value to collectors and fans than ever before, and like actually can now collect back from that.
Yeah, I'll add to that, where I think the challenge when it feels like music is not enough is that we're expecting everything to be bundled into one neat box with a bow on it, and we're calling that NFTs today, and that's not the case, right? There's many different ways artists provide value. It doesn't have to just be quote unquote utility that you see baked into one NFT, right? Everybody said it here. The coolest thing about artists is how creative they are. And so that's why, at Encore, we think about your holistic fan experience, not just pile as much utility as you possibly can into one NFT and have that be the end all be all experience. Build it over time. You can still build great experiences on Twitter. You can still build great experiences in your Discord. You can still build great experiences everywhere. And all the quote unquote utility or value that an artist provides doesn't just have to be baked into one NFT, right? It should be looking holistically at what that artist is doing with their fans.
Yeah, Akhil, any last thoughts on that subject?
No, yeah, I would like to say that, over time, as like an artist grows, their community will also grow, right? And so like with the music, it's part of that. And I think that will help sustain growth for them over time. But I think we've already seen it that, with concerts and other forms of mediums for interacting with those fans, I think like those have already been something that people have used in the past, right? And NFTs give you another way to do that better. And blockchain and all of these other tokens. So I think it's moving it forward from where it already is.
Yeah, I think you guys make a great point in that artists have always had to find ways to not just release the music, right? You can't just put it out on Spotify and like turn off your computer and hope that you're going to have a runaway career. There's always that other bit of work. And I think thinking of Web3 as another tool along which they can build fans and build momentum is the right way of doing it. And for each artist, I guess that balance will kind of play itself out and be different case by case. But we're unfortunately running short on time. Like I said, I could talk to you guys all day about this. I think in running the Mintery last quarter with a bunch of artists like that were exploring this space, this connective tissue between delivering on the value and making it easy for them to connect their fans was the number one thing that came up. So I know I can speak for the Unmutable community and that we really appreciate what you guys are building. Artists are really going to benefit from these tools, and thanks for being here. We'll make sure everyone has your contact information, but thanks for coming to Unmutable.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.